I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. In just a moment, I'll ask you to join me in a moment of silence, but first I want to just give you a couple of things that you can be thinking about during that moment of silence. The first is that this past week, our community lost a very special person on December the 2nd with the passing of Helen Weigel. I'm sure some of you knew Helen. Helen and her husband Joe were longtime residents and good friends of many. Joe predeceased Helen by a couple of years. Before her death, Helen established the Weigel Disaster Relief Fund. I'll say that again, the Weigel Disaster Relief Fund, through the Outer Banks Community Foundation. This is a fund that was set aside by her. She contributed money to it to allow people who don't have the resources to rebuild after a storm, a serious storm event, as like we saw with Oglethorpe, 2 years ago, where people there just didn't have the resources to go out and rebuild something that had been just totally destroyed. You can contact the Outer Banks Community Foundation here in Southern Shores if you want to contribute to that same fund. Also, even though it was a long time ago for most of us, today is December the 7th is Pearl Harbor Day. We lost many, many, many good people in that invasion from Japan on our naval base in Hawaii. I've been there. It's a really stirring sight to see the monument to that catastrophe. So please join me for just a moment of silence. Thank you. Council, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. This time I will make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Leo. Any further discussion about the consent agenda? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Motion's made and carried to approve the consent agenda. We have a consent agenda. This time I'll call on David Cole or Terry Gray. Good evening, Terry.
Well, I'm excited to be here tonight. I get to see my old buddy Cliff, and I tell you, it's just a good time to be here in Southern Shores. I'm here to make a recap or a report on the Dare County Motorcycle Toy Run, which we did in September. And we had assistance from your police department. And I'm going to tell you again, this is the 6th year that we've done this. They made you look good again. Now, some of you look pretty good, but they made you look real good. So we're excited for the participation that we get from the town. They help us tremendously. Our event this year, we raised $10,500, which is pretty good. There's more to come. We made a contribution at Dare County to the Dare Center. They do the gifting to the children in Dare County, and we were able to donate to them $25,000 this year.
Wow.
That's going to buy a lot of kids Christmas. And all the money stays in Dare County. Everything that we do stays in Dare County. And it's all for the underprivileged kids. It's well vetted by Sandy over at the Dare Center. We had a total of 107 motorcycles that rode in this toy run, and we had 195 Jeeps. So I had a friend of mine that met us at Collington intersection on the beach road, and was heading north. And when he come by the Garden Hotel up here, he said he was still hitting the rest of our ride. So it was phenomenal. We had no incidents. A lot of that's in large part to the chief and the excellent work that they do. But I'd like to make a presentation to him this morning, or this evening.
That's fine.
And it's a plaque that we give to the participating police departments to help us, because we get help from all the police departments in Dare County. So if the chief would come up, I'd love to present this to him. Chief, we thank you so much.
Thank you.
We
We appreciate what you do. You guys do the hard work.
well, we couldn't do it without
We like playing in the trap.
well, you do a great job, and I'd like to present that plaque to you. And it's a small token of our appreciation. This is our logo that we have on our shirt this year. We make a shirt every year, and we sell the shirts. If anybody, you can go online and buy one if you want to.
Christmas present.
But we do thank you so much. You guys are phenomenal and do an excellent job for us. We thank you.
Thank you
so much. Thank you all so much. Mayor, the only other thing that I will add is we kind of push this out a little bit, and we do a bike rally in April during Bike Week. That enables us to raise additional funds. We also do a $1,500 scholarship to all three of the high schools in Dare County, Cape Hatteras, Manteo High School, and First Flight. So we're reaching a lot of your kids that are a little bit older too. So
Good.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Terry. That's a pretty doggone positive thing, isn't it? Thank you. I'm going to take a few minutes now to make my departing remarks, I guess you'd call them. And I've got about 20, 25 pages here. But with Jane's help, I narrowed it down to 3. And I'm not sure about 2 of those. I want to take just a few minutes to offer a number of thank yous. I've been up here 8 years in this role, and I think it's been almost without exception a very rewarding experience. I'd call it a lifetime experience. Of course, I had a pretty limited life before this, but anyway, first, my thanks to our residents who chose to elect me to serve as their mayor for 2 4-year terms. I'm most grateful for their confidence in me. Other thank yous are in order for our service providers. This is a pretty big list, but leading this list are the capable men and women of our volunteer fire department. One of the most demanding of any volunteer efforts is working in that particular role. Training and the time and the whole process takes more than just a casual interest. I'm so proud of them. Add this to this list: our town engineer, our ocean rescue service, our shipping and tree removal contractor, our trash and recycling service, our IT provider. All of these people and these companies are, I think, in my mind, important to recognize and to thank them for the things they do on our behalf. A separate thank you is in order for each of those who are now serving with me or have served with me as members of this council. It's been an honor and a privilege to have worked with all of these folks over the last 8 years, especially with the 3 or 4 up here right now with me, because they're here, I got to be good to them. It's also been an honor to have worked with our town staff. We are most fortunate to have employees at every level who approach their jobs in a responsible and professional manner. Our town managers, over both my terms, have been exceptional in every way, done an outstanding job, setting the tone and the atmosphere, I believe, for all of our employees. Finally, thank you to our police chief. Didn't leave you out, David. Didn't forget about you. A thank you to our police chief and his deputy and his officers for the exemplary job they do in providing us the law enforcement at the highest level. Thank you. In closing, I would say that Jane and I see this time in service to our town as part of our journey. We thank you for making it possible, and I'll miss each of you, and I wish you well. Thank you. I'm going to step down.
Yeah.
Go back and hide.
Jane's waiting for you to do that.
Tom, don't we have a motion to do here first?
You do. We do. Yes. I'm sorry. Before I step down,
Yeah, but one more.
there's one more piece of business here. Leo,
Well,
it turns out that before
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth can be sworn in, she has to vacate her seat on council. So it's a procedural thing, but we have to do it. So is there a motion we need to make, or do you?
Well,
need to make that?
before a motion is made, may I have the opportunity to say
You
a
can
couple
still
things?
speak. You can still speak. Let's get this out of the way.
Okay.
Okay, I move that council accept Councilwoman Maury's resignation from her position.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
I'm just going to say I resign my seat.
That's all we can say. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Seat
got
on
ahead
council.
of you.
There you go.
All right. Is there all in favor of approving this resignation, indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Motion's made and carried, and you now can be sworn in later.
Thank you.
After Jim makes his remarks.
After Jim.
I'm gonna go sit next to my wife.
Yes, please. She's waiting for you.
Oh, by the way, I thank you to the town for this. I appreciate it. Jim, it's your turn. You got it. I'll get out of your way.
You're up.
Well, before I step down, I would also like to echo a lot of what Tom said, especially as it relates to the town staff. I think the town staff has been an invaluable help the last 4 years in doing this job. I'm already off the crib notes that I had started here, but I think I'd like to say that it has been truly an honor and a privilege to serve up here with the town council and working toward getting things done and the government run in the town of Southern Shores. I'm not going to sit here and list everything that we had accomplished during the last 4 years, but there are a few very significant ones. One of them is a new fire station. We have a state-of-the-art fire station and it works and it's up and running. We've also got miles of new walkways. We've had 100, it seems 1,000 zoning text amendments that we've passed. And Wes, we really appreciate your help in getting through those, even understanding them sometimes. But I think one of the other most important things that we've accomplished here in the last few years, we hired Cliff. When we lost Peter Rasco, in my opinion, we were losing a very good town manager, and it was going to be very hard to fill Peter's shoes. But thankfully, Cliff has been able to fill those shoes. He's brought a new energy and just joie de vivre, so to speak, into the town. And I really want to wish him luck. Now, Tom thanked the staff, and I may have also, but man, I really want to thank the town staff, especially Sheila and Bonnie and Wes, But that does not minimize my thanks to everybody else, and from the Public Works to the police and fire department. But it was that core group up there at the town hall. Paula used them as a resource. And trust me, if you ask them to do something that they don't feel comfortable with, they'll let you know. So, but anyway, as far as to the new incoming council members and the mayor, I don't even know who the incoming council member is going to be. I would like to suggest that they always do what they think is best for the town. Forget this national Republican and Democratic garbage. We are local, we are very specific out here, and our issues are not what those are on the national stage. So just please always do what you think is best for our town. And with that, I'm done. I'm looking forward to taking a few days off.
Can we just meet you down there? Yes, ma'am.
We're the only ones left, Matt. Been on the forum. We're done.
You want to come over here? Come on. This spot. Like this. Make your right hands. Okay. I, Elizabeth Moore, do hereby solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties imposed upon me as mayor of the town of Southern Shores, to the best of my skill and ability, according to the law. So help me God. Congratulations.
You gonna move me down?
I know it is.
Yes, if that's okay.
All right, you ready to do Ms. Paul? Oh, thanks.
I'm gonna give it to Paula.
Huh?
I'm gonna give it to Paula. The seat of office.
That one?
No, the middle.
Support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties imposed upon me as council member of the town of Southern Shores to the best of my skill and ability, according to the law, so help me God. Congratulations.
This is for you. She's got. Okay. So on the agenda now is some remarks by me, and I'm going to go at least 3 times as long as Mayor Bennett did. I'm going to start out by thanking Tom and Jim, because they have done so much just really valuable work for our town and our community. They have made an impact, and we should be all very grateful for everything that they've done for our town. I just can't say anymore. I don't have any idea about trying to fill Mayor Bennett's shoes, because that's just too big of a job for me. Sorry. I will do my best, and that's about it. I want to thank this is the night of thanks, so sorry, I'm going to start thanking some people. I want to thank everyone who participated in our election this year. All the candidates who filed and ran, all of our voters who either came out to the poll on election day or submitted their ballots ahead of time. I want to take an opportunity to thank the volunteers and supporters of my campaign. I had a lot of, you can't do this by yourself. I had a lot of help. Some of my most devoted friends and supporters are here tonight with me, and I just so appreciate it. It just makes me, my biggest supporter and appreciator that I'm so appreciated for is my husband, Tommy, because I knocked on more than 600 doors here in the town, and he knocked on basically every single one of those with me. So I couldn't do it without you, dear. So thank you so much. You're my number one. That opportunity or that experience gave me the opportunity to talk to a lot of voters. And I learned a lot from those conversations. And what I would like to do is point out that during my 2 years on council, I have been a witness to what we have on the agenda, which is public comment. And there has been, I think, the feeling sometimes that people who come to give public comment would like to have a conversation. The problem is the format doesn't provide for that. So what I would like to do, because I enjoy conversations, like I said, I learn a lot. So with the help of staff, I plan to initiate a regularly scheduled time for a chat with the mayor. So anybody can come in and we'll set something up. Sheila and Cliff will help me with this. And we'll have the time for a real conversation. And you can talk about anything you want to, because there won't be an agenda. So that's my goal. That's what I intend to do. We can try it once a month. It might not be that popular. We'll see. It might be more popular. I don't know, but we'll see. But that's what I want to do. And that's what I wanted to bring up tonight. I want to thank everyone who's listening and everyone who's here for the opportunity to serve as your mayor. I'm pretty excited. And I'm pretty excited to serve with these great people up here and whoever we decide to fill my vacant seat. Paula, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Oaths are funny things. The last time I took an oath, it was in Kentucky. And aside from vowing to uphold the Constitution, I also swore that since the adoption of the Kentucky Constitution, I had not fought a duel with deadly weapons within the state nor out of it, nor have I sent or accepted a challenge to fight a duel with deadly weapons, nor have I acted as a second in carrying a challenge.
Wow.
Nor aided or assisted any person thus offending, so help me God. I'm not suggesting you add that to the oath here, but it is a reminder that politics have always been kind of contentious. So I appreciate the words that Jim left us with to just leave national politics out of this and focus on what's good for our community. I also want to thank everybody who helped me, and so many people helped me. A number of them are here, sitting front and center. And like Mayor said, you certainly can't do this by yourself. I want to thank my husband, who did not want me to do this at all.
Well, welcome to the
But
crowd.
once I decided to do it, he was all in. And he and my brother Glenn, who's back in the back, were my number 1 and 2 sign people. So I definitely appreciated their helps. I have a couple of priorities that are really important to me, and I talked to a number of people about those. One, I really want to work on cooperating with our neighboring communities, particularly Duck, in solving some of our mutual problems. I think, it's not like the old days when every town was miles apart from the other town. We're all part of this community, and some of our things like traffic, we really need to start a conversation about. I'm also very intent, as the mayor knows, on kind of being the point person, hopefully on not letting go of building the Mid-Currituck Bridge. So I'm hoping that we can make some progress with that. I'm really honored to serve this community. Ike and I have owned property here a long time. We specifically chose to live in Southern Shores because we appreciated the values here. We want to make sure we preserve those. I walk door to door, not nearly as much as Elizabeth, but I did walk door to door some. And I was really impressed with the friendliness of this community. I mean, who lets a perfect stranger in the middle of COVID come up and knock on your door and interrupt your afternoon? But I saw a lot of friendly faces and had a lot of wonderful conversations. I am so impressed with the breadth of experience and skills and education of people in this community. I mean, young and old, this is really an outstanding community. And also the sense of engagement with the community, and we really need to build on that. I'll just leave you with my observation that every time I walk down a street, whether it was Gingite or Potaskeet or Hillcrest, somebody on that street, I would say, this is a really nice street. And she would say, this is the nicest street in Southern Shores. We live on the nicest street in Southern Shores. And that's what I want to work on, is to make sure that we keep every street for every resident the nicest street in Southern Shores. I look forward to working with all of you.
Very good.
Thanks, Paula. That was fantastic. I appreciate that. Well, this is kind of a natural break. I know there's a fairly large group of folks who are not interested in staying for the rest of the meeting. So why don't we just take officially a 5-minute break and recess, and we'll be back. Thanks. I like your bell. Well, it's the town's bell.
She's gonna wield it with impunity.
Yeah. The meeting is back in session. Next on our agenda is the organization of council in 2022 meetings, starting out with the election of the mayor pro tem. Do I have a nomination from council?
Mayor, I nominate Matt Neal.
We have a nomination. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
You guys want to talk about it? Matt? You good with that?
Do I vote?
I voted, I believe, when I was voting.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. All good?
I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Matt is our new mayor pro tem. So there's some other duties and responsibilities that we are going to talk about. These are county and regional council committee appointments. The Dare County Government Education Access Channel Committee, we're going to hold that one off for now. We're just going to leave that one open for now. The Albemarle Rural Planning Organization, that's an organization that deals with transportation issues here in the eastern part of the state. Do I have a nominee for the ARPO?
Can I nominate myself?
No, I'll just nominate you. I
I was
nominate
gonna say,
Paula for the ARPO. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Very good. The discussion would be, I learned from Matt that he's only been able to attend, I believe, one meeting in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, one or two. But it turns out that essentially anyone can attend the meetings. There is no vote by the person that we
Yeah.
send.
County vote.
So it may, in fact, that more than one of us attend those meetings. Hopefully, one day they'll meet in person again. That
One day.
one day. We can hope. So anyway, Paula, thank you for serving. Did we take a vote?
Yes.
Not yet?
Not yet. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have our nominee to the ARPO. We have a council meeting schedule resolution. So I guess I need a motion to approve the council meeting schedule. I'm not sure what page it's on.
I can't, I couldn't find it, but I'll,
Page 10, thank you. Sorry, page 10. This is our schedule. Let's see, last year we made some arrangements because of spring break. Sheila, did you check all that?
Very great. It would only be an issue if we had a workshop in April.
Okay,
They're on vacation.
okay. So the first meeting is okey dokey. Okay. Anybody have any things they want to change about the schedule that's as published on page 10?
no, I don't have any.
Everybody's good? As far as we
The
know?
only question I have is the July 5th meeting. I don't think it's a problem, but.
Because it's the day after July
Yes,
My
4th.
son's birthday is the day before. Sometimes we're out of town. Mostly we're here, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Right.
We'll make exception for you.
We can always modify. I don't think it's a problem.
We can always modify this later if we need
Yeah,
to, Sheila,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
I
so
would
if it gets up close to July and it looks like it's got a problem, we can change it then.
Right.
Okay. So do we have a motion for the council meeting schedule approval?
I move that we adopt the council meeting schedule of 2022 illustrated on page 10.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, so the elephant in the room, this is item number 7, consideration and/or discussion of council vacancy. I guess I didn't give that much thought to when I decided to run for mayor that I would be giving up a seat and then there would be a process by which we needed to fill the seat. And I think it's a pretty rare occurrence, but it does happen from time to time. I think we've had, in the community, I guess we've had people actually leave office either for personal reasons or whatever. There is a statute that is in our book, at least I think it is. Help me out with the page number.
I'm not sure it's in here.
I don't remember seeing it.
Maybe it's not in here.
You know if it's in there, Sheila?
In the packet.
Here it is, page 8, or I'm sorry,
Page 8.
page 9.
Here we go, page 9. Per North Carolina General Statute, a vacancy that occurs in elective office of a city shall be filled by appointment of the city council. And then it basically goes on to say, I'll just paraphrase it, the council will determine the process. I'll just start with my thoughts and then open up the discussion to my fellow council members here. It's not that difficult to go file to run for office. It requires a person to drive to Manio, fill out a form, and pay a $5 fee. And that's pretty much it. If you're a resident of Dare County, that's really all it's required. So it's a pretty open and transparent and easy process. So my thought was we should sort of try to mimic that with our process. Basically, we would like it to be easy. We would like it to be open. And we would like anyone who wants to nominate themselves for consideration to do so. And I'll stop talking and allow anyone else to share their thoughts.
Now, I did a little research on these statutes right in anticipation of this meeting, and the process is very wide open as to how it can be done. But I really favor a system of letting residents self-nominate themselves. I think, again, there's so many talented people in this community. And, if I could go out and sell this, I would say it's a 2-year appointment. You don't have to put up yard signs. You don't have to have fundraisers or meet and greets. And you get to be on the council for a couple of years. So I hope that we'll get a little enthusiasm in the community for running.
Yeah, I would add just real quick, and then I'll let Leo and Matt talk. I have received some interest via either email or talking with folks. So there's definitely some people that are interested in serving, which I think is fantastic. And I totally
Absolutely.
echo what Paula says, in that, my 2 times of knocking on doors, I've met a lot of people at their door here in town. And there are an amazing array of talented people who are, like Paula said, they all live on the best street in the town, and they think that Southern Shores is the best place to live, which is the same thing that I think as well. So that was always good to hear when people told me that at the door. Sorry, Matt, Leo.
I'd prefer some kind of self-nomination than us picking a name out of a hat or trying to conjure up a name ourselves.
Well, yeah, and I think that, I agree with that, and it gives the community an opportunity if somebody's interested to serve the 2 years to participate, because it is rewarding, and I think it'd be a lot easier and avoid maybe being accused of being the good old boy club. And this way we have an opportunity to see those that are interested, because there's a lot of talent in town. It's just that we don't all know who's got it. So I would favor the self-nomination process.
What terms are we thinking in terms of submission dates and all that stuff?
So I would like to kick this over to our town manager, Cliff Ogburn, if I could, with maybe some more details about a potential process.
So if you were to go about the self-nomination, I think you'd want to put applications out for folks that's how they would self-nominate. They'd fill out the application. We'd give them a deadline to fill that out and submit it. Those would be submitted to the town clerk, who would then compile them in a packet and give these applications to you. And I guess it depends on how soon you want to make this appointment. If you wanted to do this at your January 7th meeting, then you'd work back from there. That doesn't give you a lot of time, but you'd work back from that date. The one discussion you need to have, and you can have this at that meeting, is to determine the process by if it's the self-nomination, that's the process how you're going to determine who you want to appoint, you got to also discuss how you're going to make that appointment. And there's two ways. You can do that either via the motion and vote. You can simply make a motion to appoint someone and then you vote, or you can do it by nomination and ballot. But you just need to determine how you're going to do that before you discuss the merits of any candidate. And any discussion about the merits of a potential appointee would have to be an open session. So the other part you would need to determine is there's four of you. So could be a tie. And so you really need to discuss and lay out all the ground rules as much as you possibly can about how you're going to determine how you're going to break a tie. So if you're looking at a January appointment, January 7th, or excuse me, January 4th, working back from there, with the holidays, I don't know how much time you all want to review and go through these, but today being the 7th, if you were to, these could be turned in sometime the last week of December. We could compile them and get them to you before that weekend. Otherwise, if you wanted to go further, you may be able to do this at a mid-month in January to give yourself more time.
So how soon could you have the application available for people to look at?
We could have that out by the end of the week. Actually, pretty quickly.
Okay.
And I think we'd put it in our email broadcast. We'd put it on our Facebook page. We want to put it in the Coastland Times and try to exhaust all the avenues of informing folks that we have.
And is the 31st a holiday? December 31st?
No,
No,
the
it's
town
a
offices would be
Saturday.
closed that Monday.
31st.
Okay, so your holiday's on the 3rd.
That's correct.
Okay. So I was thinking we could go ahead and if we can get it out soon, like within a day or two or three, then maybe we could close the submission on the 31st, which is that Friday. That's what I would throw out there for y'all's consideration.
I'm fine with that. I would prefer a mid-month meeting to
Yep,
actually.
I would agree
do the
with the
appointment.
mid-month. I get, not
If
to
I want-
rush, not
Yeah, I
rush
agree.
it. And then give us an opportunity to be able to review
Correct.
the applications that we see, because it'll take some work to read it and make sure we're going to get the right person up here.
Right. So
So I'd agree with Matt, a mid-month.
yeah, so count on a January the 18th
Yeah, 18.
meeting, and agenda item would be what you just said, Cliff, the discussion of the actual
Yeah, and we'll lay that out
process.
for you.
Yep, that sounds very reasonable. Do we need to make a motion to that, to capture all that, or are we good?
The other terms, like if it is a 2-2 tie, I would leave it to chance and put a coin toss to be the deciding
Well,
factor.
they've
Coin toss
decided
and draw the
elections that way
straw.
before.
I mean, a friend of mine was appointed in Kill Devil Hills in a similar manner. It
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
arbitrary, but it also is fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Manny over there.
Manio did it for a seat on the council.
Yeah, they
seat on
did
the
it
board.
by a straw vote.
If we really end in a deadlock on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
The only other question that I had was sort of, a little bit, was whether or not we have an interview process. Obviously, we wouldn't have them come up here, or maybe we would. I don't know. We're paving new ground.
Yes, we are.
I think some of it is determined. If there's 37 applicants, that's one thing. If there's 4, that's a whole nother thing. So
Mhm.
at some point, we might need to, in that January 4th meeting, maybe figure out if we're going to have some sort of formal interview or not. We'll know how many applicants at that time.
Right.
So
Right.
if that sounds fair.
It does.
Yeah, this is unlike a appointment of an employee, and with a hiring of under protected attorney-client privilege, you don't get to exercise that with this appointment. So if you were to go through that process, it would have to be a public process.
The interview.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, or you could, and I think, I agree with Matt, we may want to discuss this at the January 4th meeting, but let's say you have 5 or 6 people who self-nominate, you could always let them give a little speech, sort of like the candidate.
Yeah, like
forums
the
that we
candidate
do.
forum.
We could do that.
Yeah.
And
Would it be-
that would be easy.
Well, It's hard to say without the number of nominations.
Yeah, that's kind of key. So,
Yeah, and if
to be
if you,
determined.
well, yeah, and
Might be
if you were to still keep that December 31st deadline, you'd be able to discuss on the 4th the number that you're dealing with and make your decision based on that.
Yeah, and we might have to put off another meeting. In other words, we might have to, if that scenario comes to pass, allow people to speak on the 18th and then do the motion and vote
In February.
in February. We could do it that way, right?
Right.
Take another meeting.
Or rip it off like a Band-Aid and vote that night.
I think we should have the day before the deadline, so that you can compile.
Okay.
The Sheila and I talked about if y'all were going to go this route and we were to make the 31st at 5 o'clock, the deadline, if anybody mails it, it would need to be postmarked. You know, I mean, we kind of get it into the technicalities of
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
But that could mean with the way the mail's running it, you know, we could get an application that was, for whatever reason, mailed,
Yeah,
postmarked on the 31st, but we don't get it until the 4th or
Or
the
mail
5th.
it. Has to be hand delivered.
Now, I think you could require that. You could require that.
Yeah, that's the way when you,
You could require, I mean, you could not take, Mr. Attorney, correct me if I'm right, but you could require that they're in hand by 5 o'clock. I don't know if you'd have to.
well,
you-
yeah,
do you think,
that's the
Ben?
same process we would, if you were
If you were
going
Filing,
down
yeah.
to register, you don't mail anything in. If you're not there by 12 o'clock, it's no ticky, no washy.
For the fingerprinting and all that.
Yeah.
So I just, again, I don't want to be up here and y'all, someone claim that
No, I think we need to specify that it needs to be hand delivered by 5 o'clock on the 31st. Is my position.
it would definitely simplify things.
in hand by 5 o'clock on that day.
It may simplify things. It may make things more complicated.
Oh.
Depends on
Let's
depends
hear
on
your-
the final result.
What's your input?
What I've told Cliff is the only way to mess this up is to make it more complicated. So it's really, the more complicated you make it, the more opportunity for there to be an issue. I mean, somebody could make a motion, one of y'all can make a motion right now to appoint somebody could second it, and that person would be sitting in the seat if they got 3 out of 4 votes. Or it could be a nomination process where you could sit around and nominate each one of you, nominate 1 or 2 or 3 people, and then you go round robin and keep going round robin until somebody in that list gets a majority. And that I've seen both of those done. The only time I've seen people on the board who were not pleased with who they ended up selecting was when they went through a process and had applications and wedged themselves into a situation where they were only stuck with those applicants.
Well, I wouldn't say we would be only stuck with those
Well,
applicants.
if you put a 5 o'clock deadline, I mean, if you
Mhm.
develop a policy that you're going to have a deadline and you ultimately don't like any of the applicants and you want somebody else and they didn't apply,
I'm glad
then
you spoke
that's where
up.
you've created a problem that you didn't mean to create. That's what I'm getting at. So I would say, put the applications out there, get the applications. And if
And
they
then
come
can-
in, they come in
and look
and
at
you
the
look
full.
at them, and you can certainly put a deadline on it if you want to, but it potentially puts you in a situation where you might ultimately want somebody who didn't apply on time. And
Okay.
then how do you deal with that?
Can we state when we send these out that, because I'm concerned about the mail, if somebody says, well, I mailed it in, that we specify that they be hand delivered? Is that complicating it too much?
That's what he's saying.
Probably.
What if we just put a general, like, we're looking for nominations. We don't have a name in the mindset right now, and we're looking for nominations. We might come up with a name in the short term, but we want to see who's interested in serving. And that's just a blanket call. Fill out this application.
Yeah, I think that's.
So
that's
no
the-
deadline.
Yeah.
No,
well,
no.
But people
We'll
will know
discuss
that
it the
we're
4th.
going to discuss it on the 4th.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I think
good enough.
people have to know that, as Miss our councilwoman Sherlock pointed out, that very bright people in town, they're going to most of them who you are going to be interested in appointing are going to be bright enough to figure out that you have to have some time to read that application you
That was
make a
kind of what
decision.
I was thinking as you were talking.
Well,
actually, Mayor.
sometimes, yeah, because you're bright doesn't mean you always have common sense.
I think anybody in town that wants to serve would, after hearing or being told about this conversation, will figure it out. I have confidence.
We'll put an application out there as soon as we can.
Okay.
And then we can give you the first batch of those at the end of the month. We can give you the applications that we have on the 31st.
Okay.
And those that come in afterwards, we'll just forward them as we get them until you make your decision.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That'll work.
All right. Staff reports. Who's up first? Wes, thank you.
There they are. I was looking for those.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor, members of council. Have a report for y'all for tonight for the month of November. With respect to permits, there were a total of 45 permits issued. They consisted of 8 zoning permits, 16 building permits, 18 trade permits, 2 lot disturbance stormwater management permits, 1 lot disturbance demolition permit. The total amount of fees collected by the department in November was $8,664.60. Our 5-year National Flood Insurance Program Community Rating System, otherwise known as CRS, cycle visit took place on May 12th of this year. And on November 4th of this year, we received confirmation that we have retained our Class 6 rating. This means that most property owners within a special flood hazard area in the town will still be given a 20% premium reduction on flood insurance policies. Properties in an X flood zone are still eligible for a 10% premium reduction on flood insurance policies. These savings are a result of the floodplain management and mitigation activities that we implement to protect lives and reduce property damage. I'd also like to point out that our permit officer, Marcy Baum, who had no experience with CRS prior to her employment here with the town in November of 2020, did an outstanding job learning about the program, and she was instrumental in keeping our Class 6 rating. We've been participating as the town in the CRS program since 1992. I was looking at it today, and as we were in our 2015 cycle visit, that's when we received our first Class 6 rating. So we've retained that. It's a 5-year cycle. So we were proud of that. And lastly, with respect to the planning board, the town planning board will meet on December 20th here in the Pitt Center at 5 o'clock. And the purpose of the meeting is for the board to continue discussion of potential amendments to Chapter 26, solid waste. Any questions?
Seeing none. Thank you, Wes. Appreciate it so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Chief.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Before I give you the November report, I would just like to personally, on behalf of the police department, thank Mayor Tom Bennett for all the support that he's given the police department. He was never really, I never looked at him as a politician because he always had the employees first at heart. And I truly mean that. And I truly appreciate what you've done for us. And I know Jim is gone, but I appreciated all of his support over the 4 or 5 years that he was here too. So thank you, Tom. November 2021, our calls for service, we had 1,419 calls for service. That was 25 less than 2020. The breakdown, the incidents, which are the reported crimes, as you can see, we had 10 of those. 2 were larcenies, 5 drugs related, 3 DWIs. We had 1 DOA, which was unfortunately an overdose. 1 alcohol related and 4 traffic related, with 3 miscellaneous, for a total of 19 charges. Under the criminal arrest, there were 4 for a total of 8 total charges, 1 for the drugs, 3 driving while intoxicated, 1 for the alcohol, and the other 3 for traffic. Officers conducted 60 traffic stops, and out of that, they issued 16 written citations and another 32 warning citations. And we had 0 ordinance violations, and we only had 2 motor vehicle accidents for the month of November. The only other thing I'll add is that hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, January, we're going to start back up with our newsletter and try to make it at least a quarterly thing. And I'll entertain any questions if you have them.
Anybody have a?
Yeah, just, doesn't relate to this. What's the status of our shrimp boat out here that went ashore or
I
grounded?
was told about 20 minutes ago, they're trying to get it out.
Oh, okay.
So. anything else?
What caused the issue? Is it loss of power? Do we know?
I was told they had a clutch that burned out on it and they couldn't steer it. They couldn't do anything. And that's
And
where,
with the wind today?
and of course it was one of the worst days, like a semi nor'easter. They always seem to head over towards the Sherlocks. The last one we had was over in that area too. Fortunately, they were all airlifted off of the boat down. So
Good.
they're all okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Chief Limbacher.
Good evening, everybody. Always playing second fiddle to Chief, but I would like to also give my thanks to Mayor Bennett and to Councilman Connors as well for their support and all the accomplishments we made for the fire department personally. So thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. So for the month of November, the fire department responded to 40 calls, which is typical of this time of year. And it was 1 structure fire, 1 chimney fire, 25 EMS calls, 26 if you count the patient assist, 1 motor vehicle accident, 1 hazardous condition, 1 service call, 2 public service, 1 standby, 1 canceled en route, 2 smoke scares, and 3 fire alarms. Any questions on that report there? Just briefly, I wanted to talk about 2 things, and I sent Sheila some pictures from this weekend's activities, which I thought were, this is just one. We had crews out all weekend, which wasn't a busy fire weekend, but it was a busy weekend with crews doing public events. That was the Manio Parade. We had a crew there at 7 a.m. It was a pretty well-attended event.
Nice.
They obviously didn't have it last year. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about, one of the other things I want to talk about was the event on Saturday and Sunday was the Santa Paws event. And that's part of our partnership with the Coastal Humane Society, which we had all the dogs, but we had 1 tortoise, 1 rabbit, and 1 cat. So the Santa was actually one of my real young guys. It's pretty good with all the animals, so it was pretty good. So I thought it was a good event, and these events go well towards our public image and a positive promotion of the department. So I think it's good to have these things, and I think everybody enjoyed it. So it seemed to be well received. The last thing I want to talk about, because it's not really a normal occurrence in town, which is a good thing, is just the minor fire we had on North Dogwood. And I would just say that the first and engine crew did a phenomenal job. The first unit was there in 5 minutes, and that was me. The second unit was there, I think, I don't have the time on me right now, but I think it was in 7 or 8 minutes, and there was water on the fire in 2 minutes after the engine got there. So I think that's a pretty good indication of our positive. We train twice a week, every week, and I think that's asking a lot of people. But when you're on the other end of that and you need us to do what we're doing, I think it shows. I think we were also fortunate that day, and I'll be honest with you, I'd rather be lucky than good, but I had planned a little Christmas decorating party that afternoon, so everybody was at the station. So, but I would say just, people often ask me, well, what about mutual aid and this and that? Well, the guy that's one of my kids, I call one of my kids because he's been with me for 6 years, but he's actually a full-time guy in Kitty Hawk, was actually riding the seat in our trucks. You can see how it's all intermingled down here, and nobody can really do it on their own. So I would just add that street is extremely tight. If you've never seen an incident up there, it's very, very chaotic, but I think it went very, very well. So, and I know the homeowner was happy. So any questions?
Nope.
Just thank you 1,000 times. That was a great example of just how lucky we are to have our volunteer fire department. Thanks very much, Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. It's Cliff.
All done? Or Cliff, do you want some, a
He
minute or
needs some
two?
time.
Just real briefly, I hadn't planned on saying anything, but two things happened today, and the police chief mentioned one of them, which was the shrimp trawl boat that washed ashore and woke us up this morning. Hopefully, it won't be there when we wake up tomorrow morning. I did call the mayor and tell him on his last day, he's got to deal with this. So, but to echo what the two gentlemen ahead of me said, thank you, Mayor Bennett, for all that you've done, all your support. You've made my onboarding here very easy to transition, and I very much appreciate the support that you've given me and all our town staff. And same goes for Councilman Connors, who didn't stick around as long as you did. He took off pretty fast. But I did also wanted to let you know that the Local Government Commission met today, and they did approve our financing application for the beach nourishment funding.
Great.
It was a tough road to get there, but we're scheduled now to close on the financing on December the 14th. So barring, I don't think anything now, we've been through all the hoops. We should be able to, we'll have a loan in place on December the 14th. And on behalf of the staff, wish you all a very happy holidays and Merry Christmas, and look forward to working with you all.
Thanks, Cliff. Next up is general public comment, and we have Mr. Barker.
Are we still doing agenda 8, item 8? Agenda item 8?
We haven't gotten there yet.
That's next. That's next.
That's-
item.
I'm skipping
After old business, new business.
different one.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, and council, thank you. We've had a pretty good year this year. The only thing that I've got, and I'm going to step on a few toes tonight, but I think the new council members and the new mayor should know about it. I live on the corner of East and North Dogwood. And Tom, this is nothing against you, nothing personal. But several years ago, there was about 45 trees cut down on that intersection. It took me a long time to get those trees replaced and planted. I asked the town for help. Tom said, no, we can't help you financially. We can't buy them. They did put 5 red buds in along East Dogwood there in front of my house, but that didn't help very much. I planted 45 Russian olives and 27 Leyland cypress. And after 6.5 to 7.5 years, finally, the lights from the traffic don't bother us. We've got a shed built for the lights and the traffic. But when the road was widened there, that just increased the speed of the automobiles. 99 out of 100 don't stop for the stop sign. Either way, there's 3 stop signs. Nobody stops. And we don't have enough coverage on the weekends to put an officer out there. I don't know what you're going to do about it, but I've complained about it 12 years. I've lived here in Southern Shores 12 years. You can drive by the location and see what I've done to it. I've finally got all the ditch line cleaned out so that you can see the Leyland cypress and the Russian olives. And I've had a lot of comments on how nice it looks. Hope I didn't step on your toes too much, Tom. We'll still be friends, and if you have a boat problem like the last time, I'll still help you. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Barker. Appreciate it. We don't have anyone else signed up. Does anyone else wish to speak now? Mr. Andy Ward, would you like to speak?
Gotta get my money's worth.
Yeah.
Shoot, it's only 6:40.
Wish Jim hadn't left, but I have started to write, and then I got a little bit more serious about thanking Jim and Tom for their service. So I'll start off, I'll just read it just in the sake of time. I've known Jim Connors for some 25 years. Our girls were in the same grade at Kitty Hawk Elementary and graduated together at First Flight High School. In the mid-90s, Jim and I served together as board members on the SSCA. Our main focus was properties and beautifications at that time. I realized early on that Jim had a keen sense of civic duty and volunteer spirit. He was always up for a challenge. Fast forward to tonight. Jim may be stepping back from his council seat, but you can rest assured that he will keep his feet wet and plugged in where needed in this wonderful town, which in no small way he has helped to shape. And now for my buddy Tom. I'm kind of thinking, how do I honor such a great guy? But anyway, my first contact with Tom Bennett came by telephone in summer of 2015. I hate to say this, but up to that point, I don't believe I've ever even spoken to Tom. I'm not quite sure I knew what he looked like. Anyway, Tom called me about asking if I would be able to serve on the selection committee for the Dogwood Trails Task Force. Sounded like a pretty easy do, so I said yes. Boy, did I underestimate what that involved. Anyway, we were tasked with placing 9 citizens on the Dogwood Trails Task Force. We had 36 applications, so be careful what you wish for up there. Anyway, it's funny how adversity finds a way to strengthen our resolve and push us on to bigger and better ways to serve. I truly think if I had not gotten immersed in what happened in that Dogwood Trails Task Force, I don't think I'd be sitting up here right now talking to you or being on the planning board or anything else. It's just, that's the way it worked. Anyway, it's no secret that Tom has been on the receiving end of some hostile feelings. Witness Mr. Barker tonight. And he's created some undisturbed flack over these past 8 years, but he would be the first to tell you that it comes with the territory. He has consistently taken the high road with a very small number of detractors and has been quick to give others the credit for help in his many accomplishments here in town. Tom Bennett is a gentleman and a proven leader. He too, in no small way, has had a big role in shaping our town and setting us on that steady path forward. And I thank you immensely. Great job. Just want to finish up by saying I'm proud to call both of these men my friend and wish them all the best. Thanks, Tom. Now, for you all up here, congrats to Mayor Elizabeth Morey and Councilwoman Paula Sherlock. It feels great to have 2 women up there representing our town. It's never happened, and congratulations to both of you. As planning board chair, I look forward to working with you 4 and whoever ends up in that seat right there. It's going to be a challenge for you, I'm sure, but you'll work it out. So congratulations on starting your tenure off tonight, and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Well, as it was pointed out, we're going through the agenda pretty quickly. Does anyone else that didn't sign up wish to speak now? Last chance. Okay, moving on. Old business. Do we have any old business that is not printed on the agenda? Okay. So new business, the budget amendment number 15, funds for the Dare County Tourism Board Impact Grant. Cliff, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So back in September, we applied for a tourism impact grant from the Dare County Tourist Bureau, and That grant was in the amount of $35,600. That, as you know, was to collect data through a company called Streetlight Data, and this information would allow us to know where vehicles are originating from, their traffic patterns through town, and where they're going, where they end up. And the Tourist Bureau funded our project at $30,260, leaving $5,340 to fund. The grant there's no match required for any award under $50,000. That doesn't mean the Tourist Bureau has to fully fund you. It just means you don't have to have a match. So we weren't fully funded, and we need to decide whether or not how we're going to fund the remaining portion. Staff identified, we also applied for a brick grant. We have some savings there, so we would recommend you, if you chose to approve this, to take it out of that savings. There's some other options. Obviously, you don't have to approve this. There's other avenues that we may be able to reduce the scope of the work that we're going to get from Streetlight. If we do that, it's going to be it would probably require a grant modification. There are a couple of things that I think are important where we could save money, or probably places we don't want to, because we could find out how many cars pass through town without finding out where they originated from. And part of the thing we're trying to determine is how much of the traffic we have cutting through town is actual visitor traffic versus maybe some of our local traffic, Dare County, Currituck folks that are just trying to get to work. So we would lose that. And then also we could remove the dashboard, which is kind of the public interfacing part of this project that would allow anyone to take the CVS files and the shape files and be able to use the dashboard to determine if they wanted to see how much traffic goes by their street at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday, and how that car transfers through the town of Southern Shores. They'd be able to do that with the dashboard. But you may want to hold off on this because there's another avenue for savings. When we put this scope together, we asked to be able to look at data from 2019, 2020, and 2021, and we asked to be able to look at every day of the week. And maybe we could scale that back. We'd still get the information we wanted for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but maybe it's not as important to know the other 4 days of the week. So there's a savings there. I don't know how much. I don't think it would make up this 5,000. So, this is about an 8-week turnaround project. It's not a decision you have to make tonight if you want to wait and find out how much that savings is going to be. But I don't think it'll be significant. I think I'll be back up here with a budget amendment asking for some portion of funding.
Thank you, Cliff. Appreciate it.
Do you have any, you don't know how much that savings would be? I mean, some of that weekday information I think is useful for comparison purposes. We're trying to figure out the volume of traffic that is tolerable. Those weekdays are, good to reference for that. So beyond that, would there be any other, I mean, I don't want to drop 2019 either, because I think that's a useful year because that's a non-COVID year.
Yeah, that was not COVID.
Those are the,
right?
Yeah.
And this is not an unassigned fund. It's coming from our savings of already appropriated funds for the break application, correct?
Yes, but full disclosure, that savings originated from
Unassigned.
Right.
Yeah, okay. If that's the only scope reduction and you still think there'll be some appropriation, I mean, it's splitting hairs to some degree. I mean, I'd like to see some of those weekdays. Do I need to see every weekday? Probably not. But if it's going to only knock off $1,000 or so,
I'd like to see us at least, because when you look at some of the numbers, Thursday gets to be a number I think we ought to be keeping an eye on as well. I don't know about Tuesday and Wednesday, but.
Well, that's kind of the thing. We don't know if it's going to be useful or not. And I'd be hesitant to cut it out.
Well, leave it in can we leave it in to start with and then eventually fine tune it, or?
I think for this project subscription, this is the data we're going to get from November until November 30th, 2022, 1 year subscription.
Because I go back and look at some of the other numbers that the tourism board keeps tracks of, and they go back to 2018. They go back to 2018.
And I think they said they had the capability to go to 18, but
I don't know if that's,
This is, this isn't going to give us any kind of magic bullet to say, put a road traffic device here and we solved our traffic problem. It's more information and a explanation as we go to campaign other avenues, whether it's to try to lobby for a bridge or elevate it to that level, or talk to rental companies about maybe shifting change over days and things of that nature. And I'm grateful for the tourism board to have picked up so much of the bill. I would have liked to have seen them pick it all up, but since it's a tourism impact that we're battling here.
Totally.
I'm not gonna.
There's not enough.
Don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
There wasn't enough money in the kitty.
Yeah. No,
That was one of the issues.
Could I suggest possibly we just take a little bit of time, since it is a pretty quick turnaround on this project, to find out if there is any easy savings to be had, and then put this back on the agenda at a future meeting, like maybe the first meeting in January? Would that be?
Can you get that information in that time frame?
Yes, sir.
But we would be looking at. I'd rather not take any weekdays out of it. So what's the other scope reduction?
2019.
Yeah. So I'd rather not have either of those items removed from the scope.
So if we're going to do it, you're saying just go all in?
Yeah.
I think we need those two information pieces. One, we need 19 for non-COVID comparison, and then the weekdays. I think you could argue that maybe we don't need a Tuesday or something, but
or Monday.
Honestly, it'd be interesting to see, just because this covers the whole year or the June through August. That's the only thing. If anything, I would ask for a greater scope. I'd like to see a comparison to a non-season month traffic volume, but I don't need to increase the cost of it by any means. But beyond I don't see the value of reducing the weekdays or 2019. So if that's the case, then there will be no cost reduction, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I would just share this real quick. When I was talking to people at their front door, when the subject came around to traffic, I would almost always say the same thing, which is the traffic problem, the traffic challenge is bigger than the town of Southern Shores. It truly is going to take a community effort, and I included the town of Duck, I included the tourism board, and really just the rest of the county in terms of coming up with potential ways to ameliorate or mitigate the adverse impacts of the traffic that we see. So I guess we can look at it as this is Southern Shore's way of giving back to the community because we couldn't get an entire grant funded by the tourism board.
When we started into the summer in June, when I started bringing that topic up at the Tourism Bureau board meetings, I was kind of the lone wolf out there by myself. And then we started getting the numbers from the chief, and then every meeting I was reciting those numbers. That finally started to get some attention, and what really helped as part of that is Monica from Duck stepped up and said we need to work together, and that's when things started changing. Because there was a perception this is your problem, and we had to overcome that. So it's like I said initially, it was like, well, it's your problem, Southern Shores, take care of it. But we hung in there and kept providing the information that finally turned it around. Because if we'd applied for this in June, we may not have got near what we got.
Yeah.
And I think we need to kind of pick our battle and not complain too much that we got reduced, because there were 7 applications. With the exception of one, everybody got reduced some fairly substantial money. So, and there wasn't enough money left in the pot.
I'm very grateful because I think if this was a standalone
So
amendment at 30,000,
it's not it's not that the tourism, and the other one that's going to pick up, I think, get in the race with this is going to be Kitty Hawk, because they're starting to experience problems when they're cutting off through Kitty Hawk Road and coming around the woods, and it's on Saturday, if you watched anything on Waze, it backs up pretty far down Woods Road.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they're starting to, that's getting their attention. So I think it's finally going to grow, Elizabeth, of getting a little more attention or empathy for the rest of us, because it's going to start out with maybe 3 of us. Nags Head doesn't worry about it. And Manio, they worry about it during the weekday. So it's a challenge, and we're still hanging in there. And I think, and actually, when we get some of this information, it's something I can use to present to the tourism board.
For sure.
Yeah, well, we plan to.
We got to put their stamp on it.
Yeah, we
their
do.
logo.
We have to figure out how to put the tourism board logo on it.
Well, that's the least of the problems.
I'm inclined to move forward since there's not a substantial scope reduction to it, unless we weren't going to move forward at all with it. The proposal I've seen, I mean, it's going to be a graphical and a textual information ammunition that we can use to demonstrate to people what's happening in our streets. I mean, you see to some degree that the town appears to just be complaining about traffic, and we're getting yelled at for closing our roads and stuff like that. And this will indicate that problem in a very visual manner.
Well, and I'll just add to this conversation that if you're going to attack that environmental lawsuit that's holding up the bridge construction, that's the kind of statistics that you really need. Because the lawsuit itself says a little bit of traffic, a few weekends a year doesn't justify building a multi-million-dollar bridge. So you've got to have something to rebut that, and the best thing to rebut it are some statistics,
So you need a motion, Cliff, from council to approve the budget amendment, number 15.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Third.
Okay, we definitely have a second. Is there any more discussion that we want to have on this? Ready to vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Thanks, Cliff. I appreciate it. Anybody change their mind and want to have general public comment now? Now that we've done what we did? No? Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm not sure where this fits because it's sort of old business, but it's not on the agenda. It may be new business, it may be council business. So if I can just throw this in.
I think council businesses, you're up.
Okay.
This policy.
We're enjoying a little hiatus here from traffic issues. Somebody asked me what I had done in my first couple of weeks after the election. I said, well, I got rid of all the traffic. We don't have any traffic. But, it's coming back. And I think Southern Shores really needs to get, I'm not saying we haven't been serious in the past, but I think we really need to get a focus. I've done a little bit of inquiry here, there. I've asked Cliff a lot of questions. I would like to get some sort of status report within the next couple of council meetings on exactly what is going on with that environmental law, the Southern Environmental Law Center suit. I don't want to step on anybody's toes by calling people, and I don't know who does this. I don't know if Ben can update us on this. But what I can see from looking on the internet is like nothing is happening with it. It's just kind of sitting there. But I don't know, who do we need to talk to? Who does Southern Shores need to light a fire under to get this lawsuit moving on? And the second would be just the status of the funding of the bridge, where that is. And I think it's, North Carolina is getting ready to get a boatload of infrastructure money. This just seems like the time, if you're going to light a fire to get this bridge built, that we need to light the fire. So I can do hit or miss, but it seems like maybe Cliff and Ben could give us a real, just a status update on where this is, because I don't think we can come up with a plan until we know exactly what's going on.
I'm glad to do that. I can give you a little bit of an update tonight if you wanted to know to the best of my knowledge, where it is. It's in federal court. I believe it's in Judge Louise Flanagan's court. Judge Flanagan is in Newbern, and it's I believe it's on cross motions for summary judgment have been filed, and they're waiting for the judge to rule. I don't know that there's any way to push that any faster at this point, since it's really in the hands of Judge Flanagan. And there's always the Judge Sherlock, I'm sure, is aware there's always the risk of when you ask a judge to do something, they do something, but it's not always what you wanted them to do. So you had, but that's where it is the best of my understanding as of about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, maybe. And once those motions are ruled upon, it sounds like with joint motions that it's unlikely that it would go to trial. It would be one side or the other is going to win on the motions, and then it will probably go to the Fourth Circuit and be appealed. That would be my expectation. The last time that the Southern Environmental Law Center was suing about the other bridge, it went to the Fourth Circuit, I believe. And that would be my expectation, is if the state prevails, that the Southern Environmental Law Center probably would appeal to the Fourth Circuit.
Sounds like a delay tactic.
Is there a role, to Paula's point, for the town to play in that lawsuit? If we were to adopt a resolution or try to, participate, I'm not the attorney that you two are, but to express a desire counter to that suit, as an opinion of a local government body.
It would be complicated to be a party, and that's what you'd probably have to do at this stage at the district court level. If there's a ruling and it goes to the Fourth Circuit, you may be able to file an amicus brief without substantial issue. Appellate courts tend to look more favorably upon that sort of involvement than the district court does. The district court, you're probably most likely going to have to intervene as a party, and you'd have to show standing, and you may invite more delay. There'd have to be a discussion about whether or not that would invite more delay rather than increase. You'd have to balance whether it would be beneficial against the potential delay it might add. But I think that would probably be the only way to get involved at the district court level.
When it goes to the appeals court, is that a more?
Well, the appeals court is on the record from the district court level. So
Okay.
you're not producing facts and filing motions. There's just briefs and then a single oral argument. I can't remember if the Fourth Circuit does anything just on briefs, but there's my experience. The last time I was there, I had an oral argument. They may have them every time. I can't remember, but it's not like a courtroom situation where you're filing a lot of motions and a lot of things. There's 2 or 3 briefs per side, and then the court makes a decision on it. And amicus briefs are where parties that are not a party to the lawsuit but support one side or the other and have something to add to the legal issues can file an amicus brief.
If we were armed with some traffic data that shows environmental impact.
That's the
I'm teasing. We can cross that bridge.
Right.
I think
but that is the complexity, is that at the appellate court, you're stuck generally with the record from the trial court. So the trial court's where you generally try and get that information in. Another route would be to provide that information to the state and to the state lawyers who are already litigating the case. But again, it may be a little late in the game to provide that, since they're already at summary judgment and you're not going to get the data till next summer.
And the state's parties is DOT and the Attorney General's office. It's neither county, correct? It's not Currituck or Dare County.
It's the state.
It's DOT and AG.
I think it's the DOT, and they've confused me lately on DOJ versus. I know who the lawyer is. I don't know exactly which department of the state, whether they're a DOT attorney or a DOJ attorney assigned to cover DOT matters, but they're a state employee.
Are they fairly forthright in giving you updates? Or do you have to seek it out?
I'd only asked for one update, and I went through a lawyer who I know who is a good friend who was involved in the prior litigation, and she got me in touch with the lawyer who's doing the current litigation. And he was as forthcoming as I would expect someone to be.
For nothing more than voyeurism, I mean, as much information as you could wrangle and pass down to us.
Yeah, and I can download the briefs and materials that have been filed with the federal court.
Okay.
And peruse them or send them to you to peruse.
There's a lot
or
of stuff to
whatever
read
you'd
in
like.
those.
I get bored, so I like to read.
You can read
It's
that.
over my head, but I like to read.
I would just, I would caution you that if you do get a hold of the briefs always sound great. You have to read the cases and statutes that are cited behind it before you figure out whether what they said is actually what it says.
You might get more than you wish for there, Mile.
Well, then maybe what would be helpful would be to get some sort of, I mean, Southern Shores is an aggrieved party in all of this. And nobody else really cares. I mean, south of us, they don't care that much about this. I don't know what the Dare County Board of Commissioners, I don't know how much emphasis they have. I think Duck cares a lot. I think we care a lot. And I think in whatever avenue we choose, we need to make a statement.
And I do know that the DOT attorney, there have been in the past, there have been at least resolutions that have been passed by this council and other councils. I don't know how far beyond. I'm sure Duck has, and I'm sure you have. I've seen them here, and he did tell me that they had resolutions and stuff like that, information from the towns that were attached to their motions for summary judgment. Now, I haven't looked at those. I don't know whether they're helpful, and other than the showing interest level of help, they're certainly not the level of traffic data help that you were talking about earlier. But I'll be glad to follow up with him and see if anything's changed.
Right.
See if there's been I'm assuming that if there was a ruling, we'd probably have heard about that. So I'll see if there's been anything else that's changed, and see if they think there's any way that we can assist in the litigation.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Matt?
Are we council comments?
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you. Merry Christmas.
Leah?
Well, one, I want to congratulate you being our first female mayor.
Thanks.
So, Impala, welcome.
Thank you.
And so I've worked with Elizabeth now for two years, so we know each other. Also want to thank Tom and Jim for their efforts. I've served with Tom for 6 years of his 8. Prior to that, we worked together on the SSCA and in the boat club. So I've appreciated the friendship and working together. So may the wind always stay at your back there, Tom. And bring you up to date on where we are that reflects how traffic is going to be or not be. This is through the latest data we got is September of 2021. And occupancy was up 15% for September. The current year to date was 38%. And when you look at it, last year at the same period, we had 63,775,000. This year we got 73. I mean, that 63 was a big number. It was the biggest we had, and this one topped that. So, and based on the realtors that are on the tourism board with me, their occupancy rates for next year they're booked. They're not looking for a lot of additional business other than what they got. Meal collections is up 22% for September. And current year to date is 58% increase. So again, September 2021 was the highest month in the 4 years that they're tracking. And I know Tom mentioned Pearl Harbor. That was 80 80 years ago. I don't know how many in the room were born before or around that time. But if you think about it, that event was the beginning of the formation of our greatest generation. Because you remember at the time they were fighting two wars. That became the Pacific Theater, and we had the European Theater, so we were split. So those people did an excellent job, and my parents were part of that great generation. So keep all of them in our prayers, because they are getting less and less. So, and we just lost one of them, Senator Dole, this week. So anyhow, that's all I got.
Thanks, Leo. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, staff. Like I said, tonight's the night of thank yous. And welcome to my friend Paula. And I'll just say what Matt said, which is Merry Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Thank you. Yay.
Good, how you doing? Nice seeing you.
Thanks, Tony.
Well, hey. How have you been?